There we go. And hello and welcome to everybody who's watching this recording back at a later date. We've got your very first Bridge Masterclass today. We'll be talking all about a framework for digital success. So let's get into it. Up on your screen now is the agenda for today. In a moment, myself and my colleague Naz will introduce ourselves. Then we'll look at today's learning objectives. We're going to be going through the importance of reflective practice and talk through a couple of different reflective practices that are helpful to implement, SWOT and PEST. We'll then move on to talk about why digital is important and the key things to think about when creating or reviewing a digital strategy. We will look at SMART goals. We'll talk about what they are and how they can be useful for your organisation with a particular focus on digital and fundraising. We're going to save time at the end for a short quiz, just a fun one, and we'll also make sure to save some time for your questions at the end as well. But like I mentioned, don't feel that you have to save your questions until the end. We love to hear from you as we go through our workshops and our masterclasses. So like I mentioned, there's a chance to get to know other participants in the chat, and you can post your questions in the Q&A. And Jasmine's keeping an eye on all of those, so do reach out to her if you need anything. She's there to help. So I will introduce myself. I am Sabina, one of the digital communication coaches on the team here at Lightful. I'm here to help you throughout your bridge journey with these live sessions in one-to-one digital coaching and developing your e-learning content on Lightful Academy. My background is in the non-profit sector. I worked for 12 years at a conservation charity called the National Trust in all things social media, digital marketing, website optimization, delivering campaigns, at a property level, regional level, and a national level. So lots of experiences to help you throughout your bridge journey, and really looking forward to getting into digital strategies today, because I think that they are so important to how you can function really effectively at your organizations. So that's me, and I will hand you over to Naz to introduce herself now.
Thanks, Serena. Lovely to see you all online today. My name is Naz. I'm one of the digital communication coaches at Lightful, and I support all of our organisations throughout Bridge. So you will see me in one-to-ones, you'll see me in live sessions, and also some Lightful Academy courses as well. My background, similar to Sabina, is in the non-profit sector. So before I joined Lightful, I spent several years coordinating one of the UK's largest national campaigns, doing that both online and offline, working with lots of different stakeholders from corporate clients to individual and major donors. And alongside what I do at Lightful, I'm also a content creator on social media, creating content around the cause area of human rights. And through that, been really lucky to work with the UN Human Rights Council, and lots of celebrities to encourage more and more people to get involved in human rights as well. So that's just a little bit about me, but we'll get started with today's session, and we'll start by first taking a look at some learning outcomes. So by the end of this session, you'll hopefully understand the importance of creating and implementing a digital strategy for your organisation. And for those of you who already have your digital strategy, this is really the perfect opportunity to review it and identify any areas you want to focus on during the programme. As well as understanding the importance of digital strategy, we'll also understand the different elements that contribute to a successful digital strategy, and make sure that you're all set up and are feeling confident with understanding all of the different elements that go into an effective strategy. And finally, we want you to end the session with a good understanding of what we mean by SMART goals and how to create them and use them, and actually start using our Lightful tools to set and actually refresh your strategies as well. So let's talk then a little bit about why a digital strategy is important. Now, a non-profit digital strategy is really a plan for you to further your non-profit's fundraising or donor acquisition goals using digital marketing. And there are a number of different digital channels. We've got social media, websites, email marketing, text, and each should really work together to reach your supporters on the right platform at the right time and with the right message. And orchestrating the efforts on these different platforms can sometimes be a bit of a challenge without having that overarching strategy to unite them. So a digital strategy really informs your online marketing efforts, with the two working together to really help maximize your nonprofit's impact. Now, as we know, the digital environment is a very loud and a very busy landscape. There's lots of competition for donor attention, so that's always high, which is yet another reason why your digital strategy is so important. Now, when planning your digital communication strategy, it can really help to look at the bigger picture of what's going on online these days. And this graphic really helps you to visualize the impact of the internet and digital technology on everyone's just daily life. The number of Google searches, Facebook posts, WhatsApp messages, as you can see, sent in just 60 seconds is incredible. However, while these digital channels do present a really huge opportunity for nonprofits to reach those wider audiences, you do need that robust storytelling framework. You need that high quality content, and you need the right message to actually get the attention of your target audience and to also get results. Now, a digital strategy can really help you do this. It helps you to cut through that clutter, cut through that noise, and helps you to capture people's minds and hearts, and then in turn deliver that greater impact. Now, I'm just going to launch a quick poll for everyone, just asking if your organization currently has a digital strategy. So you should see that pop up on your screen in just a second. And you'll see two questions on your screen just now. The first one is asking, does your organization currently have a digital strategy? And then we have another question just asking, how confident do you currently feel about creating and using your digital strategy? So I'll give everyone just a few seconds to vote in that. And I'll be checking those results as they come in. Lots of votes being cast there, so thank you for sharing your thoughts and insights with us in that poll. I can actually see most of you do have a basic digital strategy, which is really interesting to see. Now, if you have a digital strategy, it would actually be really interesting to hear whether you have come up against any particular challenges with your strategy. And also if there are any particular areas that you want to focus on improving over the course of the next 6 months whilst you're on the Bridge program. So share your thoughts with us in the chat, because your insights will also really help us to tailor the program to your needs. So if you do have that digital strategy in place, let us know what's your challenge with your strategy at the moment, and are there any areas that you want to be focusing on over the next 6 months? And thank you to everyone for voting in that poll. I will end that poll now. And whilst you're sharing your thoughts in the chat, oh, I can see actually, Jason, you've popped in that your challenge is reach. So you really want to expand your reach to new audiences and also potential donors. So that's really interesting. If you can also share what type of new audience groups you want to reach, that would be really interesting to see. And if anyone else has any particular goals for their strategy, share that in the chat. Ali, I can see your challenge is limited time and also low social media engagement. And of course, you know, we completely understand that time is a very valuable resource when you're working in a nonprofit. We have all worked in nonprofits and we completely understand that challenge. You know, there is not enough time. But what strategies really support with, if you have that detailed, if you have that effective strategy, it does actually support you in saving resources long term. So it's really important to actually invest time, as you're doing now, as you're doing by taking part in the Bridge program. But thank you for sharing that. And I can see, Elise, your challenge is identifying audiences, measuring results of print versus digital campaigns. And again, that's really interesting to see. And we do actually have a topic in one of your masterclasses about actually measuring your digital success. So it's really great to hear that that's an area that you want to be focusing on. Keep those comments coming in, because like I said, it really supports us in understanding how best we can support you over the course of the program. But what we'll do now is we'll just move on to the next slide. Now, your organization needs that focus strategy in order to reach supporters in those meaningful ways. It also helps you to cut through the busy digital landscape, as we saw in that previous slide, and ultimately increase fundraising, increase awareness and engagement for your organization, which, reading from those comments, we all want to be doing. Now, it's all about being organized, being intentional about what you're going to do. So setting up systems, coordinating with your teams, and then reviewing and improving your results accordingly. Your digital strategy does really form a vital component in your overall organizational strategy. And most importantly, as you can see from the image, it should be aligned with your organization's vision and mission, which is why you can see the graphic on your screen now. Now, having your organization's mission and vision at the heart of your digital strategy really makes sure that every element of your digital content is aligned with what your organization is set out to achieve. Now, some of you might have a mission statement that's very obvious. Some of you might still be working on your mission statement. But if you know what your organization's overriding cause or purpose is, you are on your way to crafting that clear mission statement that will help you to keep all of your digital content aligned with your organizational goals. So, for example, at Lightful, our mission is to help nonprofits become better storytellers, to build trust and raise more money. If you have a clear mission statement at your organization, please share that with us in the chat. We'd love to see them. And if you feel like you need some help in clarifying your mission statement before you start working on your digital strategy, that's something the Bridge team can help you with in a one-to-one digital coaching call. So do book those in if you need to. But moving on to look at the other components of your strategy. Now, your strategy should, also link to your wider organizational goals. So think about your fundraising activities, think about your events, even think about internal staff and volunteer engagement. Now, your digital strategy will link all these elements of your work. So you can see it's a very broad kind of document and strategy. And by starting with your mission, vision, and goals, you can use your digital strategy to really identify opportunities and audiences that will most effectively and most likely help you to deliver those goals. Now, I'm going to hand over to Sabina now to introduce you to some reflective practices, which is really important to start off with when you're creating your strategies.
Thanks, Naz. So creating a digital strategy allows you to consider what you're doing well versus what's missing in your approach. So we're going to now look at some tools and techniques that are really important when it comes to setting up or developing your strategies. And these might be tools you've used before, but even if you are familiar with them, I'd encourage you to revisit them for your organization through a digital lens. So we often work at a very fast pace. We've been seeing that in the chat today, but to ensure long-term success and achieve your goals, it's really crucial for organizations to be reflective, to not only look into the future, but also to reflect on their past and their present practices to carefully plan their digital strategies. So this is where two valuable tools can come into play: SWOT analysis and PEST analysis. And those are acronyms that I'll explain in just a minute. But by investing time into these analysis, nonprofits can gain valuable insights into their opportunities and barriers to success and make informed decisions to shape their digital strategies effectively. And so it's really important to stop and do that reflection. We don't often manage to find time to do that, but that's what we really want to help you with today. So up first is our SWOT analysis, and a SWOT analysis provides a structured framework for organizations to assess their current situation and make informed decisions about their future direction. It helps to identify areas where an organisation has a competitive advantage and areas that require potential improvement. By understanding both internal and external factors, you'll be able to align your strategies with your goals and abilities to maximise your chances of success. This type of analysis invites you to think about 4 different areas of performance, and they are on your screen now, and I will go through them individually. So firstly are the strengths. So recognizing our unique strengths. Let's say we're doing a SWOT analysis for your organization. This could be passionate volunteers, a strong network of supporters, or well-established partnerships. By identifying and understanding those strengths, you can use them in your favor to enhance your digital strategies. You can highlight your unique value proposition, showcase your expertise, and engage your audience more effectively. By understanding your strengths as an organization, you know how to allocate tasks to which teams, to which people. And then up next, we have weaknesses. So every organization has areas that do need improvement, and nonprofits are no exception. So this could be limited resources, outdated technology, or perhaps a skills gap. And this means you need to proactively incorporate steps into your strategy to help overcome those weaknesses. You can invest in training programs, as you're doing right now on the Bridge program. You can seek collaborations, you can explore new technologies to bridge the gaps that you have. And opportunities. So a SWOT analysis can also help you to identify those external opportunities that can help to fuel growth. These opportunities could include emerging technologies such as AI, new funding sources, or new businesses that have the potential for strategic partnership. By recognizing and leveraging these opportunities, you can expand your reach and tap into new donor pools and enhance your digital presence. And then finally, we have threats. So nonprofits operate in a really dynamic environment with various threats that can impact their mission. And these threats might come in the form of increased competition, shifts in donor behaviour, high staff turnover, all of which we have seen as a result of the pandemic. So by conducting a SWOT analysis, you can identify potential threats and devise proactive measurements to mitigate their impact. You can gain insights into your market position and the external factors that may affect your operations, which then help you to differentiate yourself from your competitors and adapt to changing market dynamics. You can diversify revenue streams, cultivate relationships with donors, stay vigilant to adapt your strategies swiftly when faced with those potential risks. So I encourage everyone to take some time to reflect on their personal and organisational strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and try to come up with about 3 to 5 points that you can include for each section. And now let's take a look at pest analysis. So this is a strategic tool used to analyse and understand the external factors that can impact on an organisation's environment. So these external factors include political, economical, social, and technological factors. And you might think that this is really similar to the threat section of your SWOT analysis, but rather than looking for threats, they look at any factors that you need to be wary of, whether they have a negative or positive outcome for your organisation. They're just simply factors that will impact on your work. So let's take a look at political factors to start with. Governments and regulatory bodies play a significant role in shaping the operational landscape for nonprofits. Political factors such as policy changes or legal frameworks can have a direct impact on digital strategies. Some of you may work in areas of conflict or where your work is restricted in some way by the government. I know lots of you will be impacted by the big election this year, and we've had similar things to think about here in the UK. But this will probably make a really big difference to how you campaign this year and what your priorities are. So by including these factors in your pest analysis, you can all stay informed about what's happening in the political space, but also make sure that you consider the implications for your work. And then economic factors encompass the economic conditions, the trends, and the indicators that can impact on an organisation. So this includes factors like economic growth rates, inflation, interest rates, exchange rates, consumer spending patterns, and income distribution. Analysing economic factors helps organisations understand the overall economic climate and make informed decisions about marketing strategies, resource allocation, and market expansion. So an example, if you know there is a current economic crisis, more and more people are being affected by poverty or struggling to pay for basic necessities, you may want to rethink your marketing strategies or how you ask your audience for donations. And then up next, we have social factors, and this refers to the cultural, demographic, and societal influences on an organisation. So it's factors such as population demographics, cultural norms and values, lifestyle trends, consumer attitudes, and social expectations. Understanding social factors helps organisations tailor their products or services to meet the needs and preferences of their target audience and develop effective campaigns and adapt to societal change. For example, over the last 5 years, we've really seen a huge growth in the number of young people campaigning for social change. So maybe this could be an audience group that your organisation could therefore target. And then finally, we have technological factors, and this encompasses the advancements and innovations in technology that can impact an organisation. So this includes factors like emerging technologies, research and development activities, augmentation, digitalisation, and the pace of technological change. So assessing technological factors allows organisations to identify opportunities for adopting new technologies, improving operational efficiency, staying ahead of the competitors in an increasingly digital world. And a recent example of this is the growth of AI. So in the 2024 Charity Digital Skills Report, this found that 61% of charities currently use AI in day-to-day operations to increase efficiencies and increase outputs, which is a huge increase on the 35% that were using AI tools last year. So now that we've gone through those in a bit of detail, I'm going to launch your second poll of the day, asking, have you completed a SWOT or a pest analysis before? So that should be popping up on your screen. Ignore the fact that my timer seems to have defaulted to 0. I will give you longer than 0 seconds to answer this poll. I can already see some answers coming through. Thank you, everybody. It looks like a lot of people have done a SWOT analysis before, and a couple have done both. I think a few people look like they haven't done a pest analysis before, so maybe an opportunity there to try that different analysis. And some people have not done either previously. But even if you have done one or both of these before, it's really important to look at your SWOT and your pest regularly. You might update your strategy, once a year. And because the digital landscape changes so much, it's really important to review where you're at as an organisation and the situation that you're in. So I'll just give it a couple more seconds for you to answer this poll. I can see almost everybody has answered that now. Lovely. I will end that poll now and move on to our next slide. So now that we've talked through how to analyse the current position of your organisation, let's take a look at how we can use this knowledge to develop an effective digital strategy that is representative of your organisation's needs and capabilities. And a strategy, it doesn't need to be a big, complicated document. Keeping it really simple will make it easier to stick to. But there are 6 building blocks to your strategy, which you can see on your screen here, and I will go through these individually. So in that first column, we have objectives. What are your goals? Your goals are the foundation of your entire strategy. And during today's session, we're going to share some frameworks to help you to set up your objectives, and we'll share some initial thoughts and ideas for those. A goal, an objective could be to raise a certain amount of money, increase awareness of your mission, grow your audience or your base of supporters. And Naz is going to be taking us through that in more detail in a little while. And our next column is our audiences. So who are you trying to reach? It's really important to identify your target audiences and tailor your communications accordingly. And I could see from what you were sharing earlier on in the chat that those different audience groups are going to be really key to your digital strategies. The third column are your constraints. So what restrictions do you face? So they could be technological or capacity related, could be your team's budget for developing, implementing, executing new digital marketing and fundraising strategies. And that's probably the first constraint that comes to mind. So identify a concrete financial limit early on if there is one. You may not even have a budget for your digital content, and that's totally fine. The goals of other stakeholders in your organizations are also one to consider too in the constraints. And up next, we have tools. So what resources do you currently have and what do you need? So you probably have access to things like analytic tools, design tools, maybe CRM platforms. Remember to factor in the tools that you have access to now that you're on the Bridge program too, so Lightful Social Platform and Lightful Academy. And then we've got content and channels. So what does your audience want to see? Your different communication channels should support each other and work together for an effective strategy and to deliver what your audience is looking for from you. And then we have measuring success. So how will you measure your progress against your objectives, those goals that you're setting for your strategy? You should identify the metrics you'll be tracking and then regularly check in against them. And this might all sound like a lot, but we're going to start at the beginning today and look at your objectives. And we're going to be able to support you in all of these different areas as we go through the Bridge programme. And we have a brand new tool that we're also really excited to share with you, which is designed to guide you through the process of creating or updating your digital strategy. So here at Lightful, we've created a tool called the Digital Strategy Wizard. So you don't have to come up with a digital strategy document from scratch. The Digital Strategy Wizard is a template for you to use, and you can use it to structure your strategy, collaborate with your team. You can export it as a PDF, and it's all accessible to you to use within the Lightful social platform. So I will show you around it briefly now. Let me just get that up on my screen, and I will do a bit of Zoom juggling so you can see all of it. So it's here on the Lightful social platform under the strategies button down here in the menu, and you'll see it takes you to the digital strategy wizard. And if you click on continue, you can get started with it. Actually, I'm just going to move my screen a bit more. There we go. Hopefully that's a bit easier to see. So you can see down the left-hand side that the strategy wizard breaks down your digital strategy into those different kind of pillars that I was just talking you through. You've got your statement of purpose right at the start, which is all about your organization's mission and vision and what you want to use your strategy to deliver. So you can see that I've popped in one for us here at Lightful for our social media channels, and this strategy will enable us to use our digital channels to tell people who Lightful is, what we do, and the impact that we have. The objective of this is to prompt them to seek out our expertise, tools, and programs and engage in partnership opportunities. And the beauty of this strategy wizard is as you kind of work through it, you can mark things as completed. It will save your progress. You can come back and revisit it and update it as you need to. So if I move down to the objectives, you can see they're broken down by the different digital platforms. And it's also prompting you with different ideas for goals that you might want to have for your different channels. And as you start marking this, it will go to in progress. You can see that here we've done a SWOT analysis, and we've broken it down into those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we've completed that, and we've made a start on our test, but we haven't completed it. So we've just done one box, some are still in progress. And it goes on to identify your audiences, look at your different channels, identify that budget and those constraints, and then a timeline so you can put your strategy into action, look at measurement and reporting, and then delegate tasks as well. So it's really hopefully a one-stop shop for your strategy. And for those of you who have a strategy already, which we saw in that poll many of you do, I think it's a really good opportunity to check that strategy against the strategy wizard, see if there's any areas that you could elaborate on, add to, or update to, you know, with all your new skills and expertise that you're drawing on from the Bridge programme. And it's also good to remember the strategy document is flexible. You can change it any time. You might see that throughout the programme, you pick up those new skills, you get new ideas about what you want to implement, and that's really encouraged. You know, we want you to update and adapt your strategy as you're going, and reflect on it and reflect on your goals and celebrate your successes. So I would really encourage you to start using this tool, and it's something that we can help you to do in a one-to-one coaching session if you like. Many people like to work through it together, or they like to kind of do it and let us know, and we can review it and then share our reflections and any potential improvements we can advise about in a one-to-one. So that's the Digital Strategy Wizard. We will share the link to that in the chat and in your follow-up email as well. And now I will juggle around my Zoom screen share again and pass you back to Naz to take us through objective setting.
Sabina. So yeah, the first and the most important thing that you really need to do is to understand what your goals are and what it is that you want to achieve through your strategy. And that's exactly why it's one of the first steps within that digital strategy wizard that Sabina just showed us through. And this means that you can really measure how you're doing and check to make sure that your strategy is actually achieving what you set out to do. And these goals shouldn't be something that you set and then forget about. They should continue to influence your strategy and your digital content and be something that you refer back to in order to actually make sure that you are heading in the right direction. So once you've set your goals, you can then go on to the next stage and actually set out a plan for how you're going to achieve them. And that's where your strategy comes in. Now, when we talk about goals, we always refer to SMART goals. Now, you might have heard of this term before, you might not have. If you have heard of the term before, let us know in the chat what you think the SMART acronym stands for. SMART is an acronym, so each letter does stand for something. I'm wondering whether anyone already might have an idea as to what SMART goals actually are. If you don't know what all of them stand for, do you know what one of the letters stand for? Who's going to be the first? Specific, measurable, exactly, Jalen. So we've got the first part of that down. Does anyone know what the final letters stand for? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Exactly. Yeah, perfect. Well done, Sherry. Yeah, so that's what they all stand for. Now, as we just said, the SMART acronym stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. So let's take a look at those individually. Now, specific. So this is where we want to know, is your goal clear enough and about something that you can focus on to actually check back in on and measure at a later date? Now, if you shared this, if you shared your goal with the team, would they know what it means? If so, great, it's specific. If not, then you might need to add a bit more detail, a bit more context to it. Then we have measurable. So it really needs to be something tangible that you can track and monitor so that you can actually understand whether or not you've achieved it. So give yourself that quantifiable measure. Then we have achievable. Now, it's important to be realistic in order to make sure that your goals are possible and not so ambitious that you feel really daunted and really unmotivated by them. But saying that, you also want them to stretch and challenge you and your team. Then we have relevant. So are they aligned with your other goals and objectives? And are they active and relevant to the activities that you've planned? You could have a goal that you completely excel in, but if it's not supporting any of your organization's objectives, then it's not really helping you. And then finally, we have timely or time-bound. So you need to have a deadline or a time period in which you want to reach this objective. And that's really important to help you focus and prioritize your work appropriately. And also helps you to stay honest with yourself about the goals and how you're progressing. Now, some goals might be harder to make SMART than others, but it's really worth spending time to actually make sure that they're valuable for you and your organization. They really help to make sure that your team is clear on what you're all working to achieve and make sure that your priorities are all aligned and supportive of each other as well. And they also add that clarity, so you can easily tell whether or not you've achieved them. And even if you don't meet all of your goals, it's not something that should demoralize you, but actually gives you that opportunity to learn what you might need to do differently, or maybe how your goals need to be more achievable next time that you set them. Or maybe if you overachieve on all of your goals, perhaps you weren't being as ambitious as you should be. Now, on the screen, we are going to have some examples of some SMART goals. And whilst we talk through this, I'd really encourage you to start thinking about what areas your SMART goals might cover. Now, if your overall goal was to increase brand awareness, then a SMART goal could look something a little bit like the one on your screen. So we have increased social media impressions among a new target audience by 30% by the end of the quarter. So this has all of those SMART elements. It's got a deadline. It's also measurable. So to do this, you need to know what your current social media impressions are and then measure against this again in order to measure your progress. We also have one relating to fundraising. So we have increased the amount raised from our online channels by 10% by the end of the year. So there we have that deadline again, and that success is clearly measurable because we know it needs to increase by 10% in that given time frame. Now, it could actually be improved by making this goal more specific. We know that they want to increase the amount raised from their online channels by 10%, but they've not actually stated which online channels. So to make this goal even more SMART, then again, we need to be more specific and actually highlight all of the elements that are related to this goal. And once you've created your SMART goals, we then want to know how to actually act on them. And action plans are what needs to happen once you've got your goals and you're ready to start working towards them. And you might also hear them being referred to as comms plan, but they're both the same. Now, a good action plan provides the framework for achieving your SMART goals, and it helps you to map out all of the necessary tasks with a detailed schedule of those key milestones and a list of key people involved in those milestones. Now, a great action plan will detail everything that you need to do in order to achieve the goal that you've set. Now, obviously, we want everyone to not just have a good action plan, we want them to have a great action plan. So firstly, you need to establish the scope and the metrics of your plan. So that's just writing exactly what your project is, including the purpose, the parameters, and the goals. So what do you want to achieve? What do you want to get out of the goal? How will it benefit your organization in the long term? And how will you measure its success? And also, what do you need to do in order to make this goal happen? And taking the time to define your project scope is really important, and it will help to make sure that the rest of your project plan moves your project in the direction that you want it to go. But you'll also need to identify what metrics you're going to use to make sure that you do stay on track. Next, we want to identify those key stakeholders. So who do you need to bring the project to life? Who are the key stakeholders, both internal and external? And what roles do they play? Now, when identifying your key stakeholders, you might create different lists based on responsibility or levels of involvement with the project. It's really important that you do highlight every individual involved. And after this, you need to then outline your deliverables. And as mentioned, defining your project's purpose is the first step in writing a project plan. But defining a project's purpose is more conceptual. So in order to make sure that your project fulfills its purpose and that you actually achieve what you set out to achieve, you need to take things a step further and move from that conceptual idea to something more tangible. So what will you create? What will you build? What will you design, produce? What are you hoping to accomplish or deliver? So clearly outline your project's concrete and tangible deliverables or outcomes. And once you've then clearly defined your project's deliverables, you can then drill down those deliverables into actionable tasks. So tasks you can then assign to those stakeholders. So let your deliverables guide the work of the project. Break down each deliverable into smaller and smaller components until you get to that actionable task. And while you want to make sure that your project does move forward at a steady pace, you also want to make sure that your tasks and deadlines are keeping your teams motivated and engaged. So when writing your action plan, make sure to set realistic and achievable deadlines for actually completing those tasks. And highlight dates that are inflexible and factor in those task dependencies. Add in milestones, add in checkpoints to actually monitor the progress and also to celebrate successes. Once you've mapped out what needs to be done by when and who's going to do it, then you should be able to start seeing your plan take shape and come to life. And then once you've gathered all of these details, it's really important to then share the plan with your stakeholders for feedback. So get that feedback from the team to see if there are any adjustments, any changes, any improvements that need to be made. Do expect to update your plan as you gather more information, as you go on, as you encounter those changing requirements, delays, and learn from the feedback and from the mistakes. By using your action plan to actually guide your activities and measure your progress, you will be able to refine and improve your plan as you move through the project. So tweaking tasks, tweaking deadlines and deliverables as the project develops. It's also a good idea to log any changes that you make as you go along, as well as any learnings, so that you can then look back at the end of the project and actually reflect on what you have done and reflect on how the project has progressed. So We're just going to take a look at an example of an action plan now. And the SMART goal that's attached to this action plan, you can see at the top of your screen. It says to update the website with new content by the end of Q4, leading to an increase in traffic of 10% by the end of the year. So again, we can see that goal is SMART. Now, on this example action plan, the key stakeholders, the deliverables, the tasks, and those assigned tasks with deadlines have been laid out. Now, in the first column, we have our key stakeholders. So remember, this is who needs to be involved. What are their roles and what are their responsibilities? For this particular goal, you might want to include the communications officer, your web developer, your fundraising officer. Who the stakeholders are for your goals will depend on your organization's structure as well. In the second column are the deliverables. So what are the key tangible outcomes? Does anything need to be designed or created? So let's apply this for this example. So you might need to create a plan for the content that needs updating, and that content will then need to be created, including a fundraising page. In the third column are our tasks. So once again, the deliverables are confirmed. You can then break those down into smaller tasks. Now, the content for the updated web pages will need to be drafted. So all of the collateral for those pages will need to be collated. The images and the videos, they need to be prepared for the different web pages that are being updated. And then that final column shows exactly who the tasks are assigned to and their deadlines, which then brings us on to who does what. So make sure that everyone is aligned on who is responsible for each task and when they need to have them completed by. So that's really a cross-section of what your action plan could look like. It's really your to-do list of all the things that you need to think about and the people who need to be involved split out into those separate sections, which then helps to then break down something that can feel quite overwhelming. You know, if you take a look at that initial SMART goal, it can feel like a very big project. So it helps it to break it down into those achievable tasks, which all contribute to helping you achieve that overall goal. And actually, one final column that I sometimes like to add to my own action plans is in the very far right. It's just a tick column so that I can keep track of my progress and tick off when each task has been completed and, you know, when each deliverable has been met. So I'm sure that you all have particular goals that you're working towards right now. And hopefully you've also started to think about what your goals might be whilst you're on the Bridge program. So let us know what they are. If you do have any particular goals that either you're working towards right now or that you want to set whilst you're on the Bridge program, let us know. Either share in the chat or you can also come off mute as well. But we'd really love to hear from you. Do you have any specific goals that you want to be achieving for the remainder of the year? Have a think. For those of you who already have a digital strategy, what are some of the goals that you've set out in there? And for those of you who don't, what are you thinking about now after you've, you know, gone through this session? Now that we've spoken to you about strategies and goals, what are you hoping to achieve? Jalen, I can see you share to launch a new website, grow followers on each social media to 1,000, launch 3 fundraising campaigns before the end of the year. Amazing. So you're very busy then for the rest of the year, which is lovely to see. And also you're working on goals that we actually, you know, cover a lot of in the program. So really pleased to see that, because hopefully over the next 6 months, you'll be picking up lots of, lots of different tips and tricks to support you in that. And it's great also to see that you've got fundraising campaigns before the end of the year. We'd love, love, love to hear more about that. Would anyone else like to share their goals? Oh, you're a shy group today. Sherry, I can see you have shared that you want to learn how to develop a digital strategy for your department and also understand how to leverage the expertise of your comms department to achieve your department goals. Specifically, you want to apply what you learn to a project where you're trying to build an organizational constituency on college campuses. Very interesting. And also, again, really pleased to hear that you're working on actually developing your digital strategy. Jason, I can see you shared that you work for Sherry, so you want exactly what she wants as well. Brilliant. Any other goals that we are working towards? Does anyone have maybe any different goals? Increase social media engagement, Ali. We have increased digital donor base and also bring overall strategy to the digital tasks that you complete. Amazing. So hopefully this action plan as well is something that will be really useful to you if you actually want to start introducing a strategy to your organization. Amazing. And I can also see something that we've not had shared yet is actually increasing your digital donor base. So maybe attracting new audience groups to your social media pages, to your websites to drive that traffic, traffic to your donation forms. So amazing. Lovely. Well, if anyone else would like to share their goals, please do share those in the chat. We always love to see what you're working on. And also if you're planning or running any fundraising campaigns as well, as I said earlier, we would love to hear about that too. For now, let's take a look at some next steps. So yeah, these are some of the actions that we would really like you to take after today's session. Now, before we do set your tasks, we want to just mention that we want you to make sure to log into your account, into your Lightful account, because this will allow you to access all of your tools and all of your learning resources over the coming months. Now, if you haven't done so already, please click the link that Jasmine has just shared in the chat to set your passwords. We would like everyone here to complete at least one Lightful Academy course by the end of next week. So you won't actually be able to do that if you've not logged into the platform. So please make sure that you use that link to set your passwords and get set up. We also have a playlist dedicated to your first month on the program, and it covers how to set SMART objectives and how to start building your digital strategy. And once you've actually completed your chosen course, we want you to start thinking about your SMART goals and start setting them. So think about what you want to achieve from the program. And some of you shared some really great goals in the chat earlier. And then we'd like you to head to the Digital Strategy Wizard and complete the first 4 sections. So that's your statement of purpose, your objectives, your SWOT and your past analysis. And finally, if you haven't yet booked in your first onboarding one-to-one, please make sure to do this and attend that onboarding one-to-one as soon as possible. Remember, from your introductory session that it's really, really important to have this within the first month on the program so that the team can identify how we can best support you over the next 6 months. So we've shared links to all of those in the chat now. So please do go ahead and click on them. Take a look at those Lightful Academy courses that I mentioned and get that onboarding one-to-one booked in. And you also need to make sure that each participant on your team has completed this progress tracker by the end of August in order to continue on the Bridge program. So again, we're going to share the link to the progress tracker. So make sure that you get everyone on the team taking part, completing that as soon as possible. It won't take you long, it will take a few minutes, but it means that you can continue on the program and stay with us for the whole 6 months. You can also join our community of Bridge participants. You can either join our Facebook or your WhatsApp or both. They are a little bit different. So our Facebook group is a space where all of our Bridge participants, past and present, they share campaign notices, they share questions if they have any questions. We see lots of people sharing their skills, sharing their tips on that Facebook page. So it really is a great community of vibrant nonprofit leaders. So make sure that you are following us in that space. And then we also have your WhatsApp group. So this WhatsApp group is just specifically for your cohort. And you can join that space to ask questions of each other, to share your thoughts after live sessions, ask the team questions as well. But again, a really great space to network, to meet other people taking part in the program. So I'll leave those QR codes up on the screen for you to scan if you'd like to. But I'd also just like to open up the floor to any final questions that you might have. So please do feel free to share questions in the chat or come off mute. We are more than happy to answer any.
I can see now that we've had an anonymous question in the Q&A asking, should we set goals for our organisation's internal objectives or external? So internal or external objectives. So my thoughts on that one are definitely both. Yeah, I think the more goals you can have, the better. It gives you something to be working towards, something to be measuring against. So for those of you who were sharing in the chat about, creating a digital strategy, have that as your first goal, and it's something to work towards and mark off. And then also think about those external factors that you want to be working on, like your audiences, like your donor bases, like your fundraising targets. So yeah, I think the more goals you can have, and then the more specific they can be, the better and easier they are for you to work towards. Hope that answers your question.
Well, if there are no final questions, we'll move on to the quiz. And actually, if you think of any questions whilst we're doing the quiz, then feel free to pop them in the chat because we can still go through those before the end of the session. But we sometimes like to do a little end of session quiz. This isn't anything official. We're not going to be keeping track of scores. We're not going to be marking you. It's just a bit of fun to see what you've picked up from the session, what you remember. So there will be a series of 5 questions just asking you about different things that we've mentioned today. And we'll give you around roughly 30 seconds to answer each. If you would like to keep track of your own scores, then please do. You can also share the scores with us at the end of the session as well. But we'll head straight into it, and I'll launch the first question. And that first question is just asking, what is a SWOT analysis used for? And do read these carefully, because I've purposely tried to trip people up here just to make it a little bit more difficult for you all. Give you 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Well done, you've all got that one correct. It's to identify your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Lovely. Next question. We have, what is a pest analysis used for? So again, we'll give 30 seconds for this one. Votes are coming in very quickly. 10 more seconds. 3, 2, and 1. Lovely. Almost everyone got this one correct. It is the top one. So it's to identify any external factors that might impact your environment. Question 3. What does your strategy need to align with? So this is going back to one of those first slides that I showed everyone. So who remembers? 10 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Well done. Again, almost everyone got this one correct. It is your mission, vision, and your organizational goals. Question 4. What is the first step of creating your digital strategy? So a little bit more tricky with this one. This goes back to one of those slides that I think it was Sabina showed you at the start of the session. Five, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Well done. So it is setting your objectives. That is the first thing everyone needs to do before they start on their strategy, is thinking, what are you hoping to achieve from this? Question 5. What does the SMART acronym stand for? And again, read these very carefully. Ten seconds left. 3, 2, and 1. Lovely. Yes, it is the bottom one. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. Lovely. So they are all of our quiz polls. So if you were keeping track of your scores, please do share those with us in the chat. And I'm also actually going to launch a couple more polls right now, just to end the session, not part of the quiz questions. But as I mentioned, if you were keeping track of those scores, do share how you did in that quiz in the chat. And also, if you did think of any questions whilst you were completing that quiz, then please do feel free to ask us. Amazing. I can see one person got 5 out of 5 on that quiz. Well done. Lovely. And I'm just going to launch one final poll in just a few seconds. I'll just give some more time for everyone to vote in this one. Lovely. And we have one final one, just asking for some feedback on this session, just asking you, how useful did you find this session? 1 being not useful at all, and 5 being very useful. Oh, I can see there is a question in the chat. So, Jalen, I can see you asked, when we post on different social media platforms, should the content be different? So Instagram versus Facebook versus TikTok. And this is actually a very interesting question and something that we are going to be talking about in your next live session. So you've beaten us to it. In short, yes, they should be different on each platform because each platform has a different type of audience base. But it's also not about completely redrafting everything, because we know that people are short on time. It's unrealistic to expect you all to sit and create different content for each platform. But it's about making small tweaks that helps you to reach those different audience groups on those different platforms and really making sure that you're speaking to their needs. But what I would say, Jalen, is as I mentioned, your next live session goes into detail on this. But if you would like to maybe get a head start before this session, I would take a look around Lightful Academy, because we do have a few Lightful Academy courses on this. So take a look at that. And also, if you do want to book in a one-to-one and discuss this in detail before that live session, please do go ahead and book that one-to-one, because we are always more than happy to support, more than happy to help. Does anyone else have any final questions? I can see Jasmine has just shared the link to that course, Jalen, in the chat. So if you want to take a look, and yeah, as Jasmine said, if you want to get a head start, do take a look at that course. But if there are no final questions, then we will let you all go. Apologies for going a couple of minutes over, but hopefully you found today's session useful. It was lovely to see you all, and we will see you all either in your next one-to-one or in your next live session. Have a lovely rest of your day and take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.